The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good evening and welcome to each of you. We are excited to present this webinar on digital communications best practices. This is the third in a series of webinars that National PTA's communications team will be presenting this year for PTA leaders across the country on areas within communications. So since we're doing a webinar on the topic of digital communications, we asked for you to tweet along on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, you can tweet fun facts and tidbits using the hashtag PTA Digital Hour, and I'll share them on National PTA's Twitter feed and Storify account afterwards. I also attached our social media tip sheets for you to download and share. Thank you again for taking the time to join this digital communications webinar. Alrighty, so I'm Catherine Lomito, and I'm the Digital Communications Specialist for National PTA. I'm thrilled to be joined this evening by two communications experts who will share their insights, advice, and tips throughout the webinar. I'd like to introduce Corinne Canning, the Editorial and Marketing Specialist for National PTA. Corinne was previously a digital editor at USA Today. I'm also pleased to introduce Shayna Glickfield. Shayna Glickfield is a partner with Beekeeper Group, a leading public affairs firm in Washington, D.C. that specializes in digital communications. With almost 20 years of experience, Glickfield advises a wide variety of corporate, association, and nonprofit clients on their communications and advocacy strategies, focusing on social media and mobile technology.
Thanks, Kathy. During this evening's webinar, we will provide an overview of digital communications, including tips for planning strategically and gathering metrics and data. We will also discuss how to create high-quality, engaging content and the ways that you can grow and optimize your social media presence. Additionally, we will talk about e-marketing and why it's still one of the best ways you can establish a relationship with your individual members. At the end of the webinar, we will answer any questions. Please feel free throughout the webinar to type your questions in the chat box on the right side of the screen.
We will now begin the webinar with a discussion on digital communications best practices and why it's important. So what is digital communications? Well, one thing is we use it every day, and sometimes we don't even realize the value of it. From sharing Facebook posts to sending mass emails to your coworkers, or even participating in an online webinar like this one, effective digital communication is the ability to create persuasive communications in different media, be it websites, video, audio, text, or animated multimedia. The great thing about digital communication is that it thrives in multimedia platforms where users can engage and communicate. Leveraging channels like social media or email gives organizations the opportunity to reach a wider audience in a variety of innovative ways, and it also allows users to reinforce the organization's mission-driven messages and overall brand. Another important key about digital communications is that it sets a baseline to measure success. So are you trying to increase an X amount of website traffic? Are you trying to gain social media followers or more email subscribers? Are you trying to get more people to download copies of your online PTA materials or see how many people clicked on your e-blast announcement for your next PTA event? Ideally, you want to effectively communicate and engage with your digital audience and make sure it aligns with your measurable objectives with your overarching goal. Okay, so in this slide, I'd like to show you all of National PTA's social media platforms. So many of you are familiar with our Facebook, our Twitter, and YouTube pages. And over the last 3 years, National PTA actually launched our Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Storify account. So this is a great example of how we leverage social media platforms to enhance our marketing efforts and amplify our messages to our members. I'll now turn it over to Corinne, and she'll talk briefly about our e-newsletters.
Thanks, Kathy. So National PTA has 4 e-newsletters, each geared towards a different group within National PTA's entire email pool. They are PTA Parent, PTA Takes Action, Local Leader News, and Leadership Briefing. PTA Parent is a bi-monthly newsletter which shares ideas on how PTA families can be engaged in their child's education and well-being. Content includes PTA toolkit resources, fundraising programs, tips and advice, and our Children Magazine articles. PTA Takes Action is a monthly newsletter that offers the latest news on legislative issues affecting families, children, education, schools, and communities. It also highlights national PTA policy priorities and activities. Local Leader News is a monthly newsletter which keeps PTA local leaders informed on the latest national PTA developments, as well as new programs and resources available at National PTA. And last but not least, Leadership Briefing is a monthly newsletter which keeps all PTA stakeholders informed on new national PTA events, partnerships, programs, and resources. When creating your e-newsletters, it is important to divide the content by audience. This keeps your members from feeling bombarded by too many emails or from feeling like the emails they receive are irrelevant to their interests. It's all about knowing your target audience. And on that note, I will turn this over to Kathy.
Thanks, Corinne. Okay, so earlier I discussed how important it is to define your communication objectives. Now it's time to identify and segment your audience. So the more information you have about your audience, the easier it is to communicate and make desired call to actions. So on this slide, I mentioned that every digital platform has a niche and for the most part is used differently depending on the audience. So for instance, on PTA's Pinterest, we pin everything that speaks about our brand, from health and safety to art and education. We also know that our audience is more than 50% female. So we have boards on healthy snacks and lunchbox recipes, art and craft ideas, and do-it-yourself classroom and home activities for families and kids. Now on our National PTA Facebook, we know that it's our most engaged social media platform that has more than 50,000 followers. So we like to use this platform to promote important information on PTA programs, resources, and partnerships and sponsorships. It also is important to define your audience and think about some of these key demographics and factors like age, race, gender, socioeconomic status, and you need to pay attention to what links get the most clicks or the most shares. So piggybacking from the previous slide, you can access all of these metrics right at your fingertips. If you are the admin of your PTA's Facebook and Twitter accounts, then I would recommend you to take a deeper look at your metrics and get a sense of what gets them to react and engage with your content. Facebook Insights will display things such as total number of likes, your weekly reach, how many people are sharing or liking the post. The dashboard even shows which hours of the days are most active. For Twitter, you can find this when you click your avatar icon in the top right as if you're logging out. So it breaks down metrics by month and you can glean through insights from real-time tweets. So one of the most helpful steps you can take to implement a successful content marketing strategy is to plan ahead and use an editorial calendar. Editorial calendars come in handy because you can track milestones, important PTA meeting dates, and other upcoming events well in advance. It also maps out what type of message goes out for a particular day and specifically on what channel, like an email, your blog, or on Facebook or Twitter. So take a look at this sample picture of this editorial calendar built right off of Google Docs. You can also copy the sample bit.ly link on this page to view more calendar examples. It doesn't necessarily have to look like this in this capacity, but the point is to view your production calendar as a whole and to use this as a resource to keep your communications team on the same page on dates and deliverables. Now, the fun thing about digital communications is that there's a variety of things to post about. Not every post on your social media or message for an email has to be time sensitive. Try balancing material with evergreen content. So you can post inspirational quotes or email members a lighthearted message about how you appreciate them. You can also post about a trending news article in education or about something happening in your school district. You can share resources, both old and new tools. The list goes on, and you can see right here in the slide. Now I'll hand it over to our guest speaker, Shayna Glickfield of the Beekeeper Group. She'll talk about the visual revolution.
Hi, sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. Thanks everyone for having me here. The portion I wanted to focus on has to do with the significance of visuals in our digital communications. And I start here with an image that might look familiar to people. It's what we used to refer to back in the day as a Kodak moment. And this was when we used visuals very rarely because cameras were very expensive, film was expensive, processing film was expensive, and so we really reserved capturing an image for a special occasion. Of course, we've come a long way since then, and that's why I call this the revolution. So the next slide shows us what the social web looks like today, and the amount of visuals that we encounter is just exponential. So everything from banner photos on our Facebook and Twitter profiles to memes and infographics, and now we even see how valuable visuals have become with the increase in visual first or visual only social platforms like Snapchat and Instagram. So this is a big shift for us as communicators or as folks who want to bring attention to their cause or issue. You really need to think about how to be more visual so that you can compete in the same manner as others who are using visuals to get attention. Next slide. So again, why do I call this the revolution? Well, we all have access to tools in our pocket. So we all have very high resolution cameras, video cameras, and they're in our pockets with us all the time. We take tons of pictures. And with that, our habits have changed. So we're more comfortable sharing pictures and lots of pictures. And people have an urge now to use them for self-expression, which is a nice way of saying selfies or showing people what they're doing and what they care about. So this leads to completely shifting habits of social media users from using a text status update to shifting with showing and not telling. This is really an opportunity because as you think about the scrolling nature when you're consuming social media, going through Twitter, going through Facebook, on your mobile device especially where you're just scrolling and scrolling, images are what really capture us. And so it's your opportunity to give more context to the things that you want to share using images. And it's just generally more exciting and colorful and useful for people. Next slide. So one of the biggest challenges people have is how to get your visuals. How do you access them? If you don't have access to a graphic designer, which many people don't, that's okay. If you do, that's great too. Maybe the National PTA can help you there. They might have access to design assets that you might not have. You can get photography, so making sure you capture all kinds of PTA events and activities, so even if you don't use those photos then, you can use them again later. There's a lot of stock photography and free photography online where you can grab images. If you're questionable about whether you have the authority to use something, chances are you probably want to either avoid it or give very proper credit to the source that you're pulling from. Always you can crowdsource it too. So usually if you want to put out there that you want a certain visual, ask people in your community and usually they will provide it for you. Or you can give them a certain challenge, like everyone wear your PTA t-shirts and send me a picture. And then there you go, you have tons of pictures of people in their PTA t-shirts. So crowdsourcing can be really helpful. And then pulling fun memes and GIFs from different databases and websites that house those are great, free, easy, and funny ways to attach a visual to your message. Next slide. So what works when you're using visuals? Of course, you know, PTA, I'm sure you have a lot of data and statistics that you need to share. But when you're working with visuals, you have a new opportunity to be more creative. And so you want to hook into people's emotions. Of course, you have to be very careful when sharing images with kids and make sure you have parents' permission. But of course, anything that you can use that conveys emotion or tell a story, that's really powerful. And anything creativity that is maybe like unexpected that will grab people's attention. You can also share insights like connect the dots to 2 images or share a video that explains something that someone else might not have thought of before. Humor is very popular on social media, and so anything you can use humorous like the memes or the GIFs that I mentioned before. I know we often pull from a site called Giphy, G-I-P-H-Y, where there's tons of free GIFs that you can just search the expression you're trying to share and pull a GIF from that. And then curating. So if there's a lot of images related to something, you want to tell your audience what the best images are for that story or for that event or that activity. So thinking about being helpful to your audience at the same time that you're using those kinds of images. So those are all great values for when you're picking out an image or a video.
Okay, thanks, Shayna. So it's important more than ever to amplify your online messages. And Shayna did a great job talking about the visual revolution. But another way to amplify your messaging is to take advantage of adding URL links and hashtags to your content. So these elements redirect users to a pool of even more information, whether it be another website or a conversation of people talking about the same topic. Since the lifespan of content on social media and in emails are short, you need to be picky about how you craft your headlines and how you use eye-catching words that'll get them to click. Another simple way to optimize your digital footprint is by automating messages to go out. Maybe you have to post things in the morning, but you can't because you have to work or commute. Since you can't be tweeting constantly all day, take the advantage of using tools like Hootsuite, Buffer, or TweetDeck to save time. And lastly, you have to be social. So the best way to connect with your community is to foster one-on-one engagement. Reply to your comments, retweet people's posts, or even join a Twitter chat using your PTA social media account. Corinne will now talk about e-marketing.
Thanks, Kathy. So even though social media is a growing part of the way we interact with members, e-newsletters and email campaigns are still a hugely important way to keep your members informed and engaged because they're so easy to personalize. While social media is about, well, being social, growing engagement in your brand, the emails you send should be more about building one-on-one relationships with your members. By simply changing the to line on an email or altering the greeting, you can make your members feel acknowledged and special, and therefore more motivated to pitch in to help out with whatever you need. Email is also the most effective way to keep people informed. For one thing, while your emails should be relatively brief, you're certainly not limited to 140 characters the way you are on Twitter. It's also the one platform people check on a consistent basis. Research shows that 91% of people check their email at least once a day. People also prefer to be kept informed via email. A Merkle white paper showed that 74% of consumers prefer to receive commercial communications via email, which I know we don't like to think of ourselves as commercial in PTA, but we are. And finally, email is a low-cost way to reach on-the-go members. Not every household owns a computer with a broadband access to the internet, but nearly everyone owns a mobile device. And they're definitely using these devices to check their email. Studies have shown that half of all emails opened are opened on cell phones or tablets. At this point, you may be thinking, well, why not just send a group text to my members to keep them informed about the fundraiser tomorrow or to give last-minute details about the event that's happening tonight? Well, those texts can cost your members money or cause them to possibly go over their data plan, which certainly won't make them inclined to help out. Emails, on the other hand, are free for the receiver. So you can use email in a variety of ways. So there's the one you've probably already been doing and know about, which is reminding your members of upcoming deadlines or events. But you can also use email a little bit more creatively. For instance, you can send out an email or email series to get your new members up to speed. You could think of it as a quick primer on your PTA. When and how often you meet, where you meet, important events you host throughout the year, who your leadership is, and what each person is in charge of. It's a great opportunity to make new members feel welcomed and informed. You can also use emails to send virtual thank you cards. You can send them not only to your members to express appreciation for their time and effort in organizing an event or fundraiser, but also to anyone who has donated to your PTA or bought something from a fundraiser. This will hopefully incentivize them to do it again. There are a few guidelines that you should keep in mind as you're crafting your emails. Here's what you should try to do. Keep your messages short and sweet. Of course, you should write enough to convey the information, but try to resist the urge to go on for longer than 300 words. Instead, write enough to get the general point across, and then refer them to your website for more information. To that point, make sure you link directly to the content you're talking about. If you're writing an email about your state's Reflections program, for example, while it may be easier to just link to the front page of your website, be sure to try and go the extra mile and put the link to the actual Reflections page on your website. Your members will appreciate not having to search for it. And of course, experiment with what works for you. Ask around and see when your members prefer to receive emails from the PTA. Now here's what you absolutely should not do when sending emails to your members. Don't send emails to your members using the to-line or the CC function. Don't put the emails in those fields. Some of your members may not be comfortable with everyone on the email list knowing their personal email. Not to mention your members will be subjected to lots of annoying reply all messages that aren't relevant to them. Instead of putting your email list in the to-line or in the CC function, use the BCC function instead. This will hide your email list from whoever receives it, and it will stop the endless, unnecessary reply all emails. Also, don't send your emails without doing a careful review. This probably seems obvious, but it's important, so I'll say it. Make sure you don't have any typos and that every date and time you include is correct before hitting the send button. A little extra time spent reviewing will save you the work of having to send out a correction email, and will save your members from possibly being confused about the days and times of events. And last but not least, don't forget to include links to your social media channels in your emails. While email should be about building personal relationships with your members and keeping them informed, it can't replicate the social aspect of social media. Including these links gives your members another area to interact with both you and each other. With all of those do's and don'ts in mind, you may want to start using an email marketing software like the ones you see on screen. You probably know that at times regular email clients like Gmail or Outlook can be unreliable. This is because they don't control things that will stop your emails from getting to your recipients, like large email size and ease of use. Creating your emails in an email marketing software program will make them look more consistent, more professional, and will keep their size low, so they will be more likely to land in your members' inbox rather than in their spam filter. Email software like Emma, MailChimp, and Constant Contact allow you to see exactly what your members will see when they open your messages before you send them. You can also use these software platforms to track your messages to see if they're being opened, who's clicking on what, and what's most popular. This concludes the main portion of our webinar. Thank you for your time and attention. We will now answer your questions as provided in the chat box on the right side of your screen.
Okay. So I'm going to pull the questions out. And let's see what we have. Okay, we have quite a few questions. Alrighty. What is the best way to send out a group email to our membership? I've found that email providers tend to think you're sending spam due to being BCC'd to hundreds of members. Candy, are you sending this mass email through like your Outlook or a Gmail or through an actual email client?
Using an email client will eliminate that issue in part. It may also be because your subject includes spam-like words like limited time offer, exclamation points will sometimes set it off. It's important to kind of be aware of your subject line.
So my suggestion, if you're sending a mass email, to use one of the actual email vendors like Emma or MailChimp or Constant Contact. So say, for example, you have an attachment like a Word document or a Adobe PDF document. Most emails will catch that as spam. So it's not recommended to send attachments to like a mass email list such as that, even if it's BCC'd.
So the best thing you could do is to upload the document onto your website and then link to it in that email.
As an embedded link. No problem. Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, and thanks for tweeting. So if anyone has any more questions, you can type in the box, or if you want to email us directly, you can, and feel free to. We have our contact information on this last slide, but we'll stick around for a couple of more minutes. If you have any additional questions, just feel free to type in this chat box. Okay, so we also, before I answer this question, I also attached 2 handouts. One is a presentation document of this slideshow, as well as our social media tip sheet. So feel free to download those after the presentation is over. And it looks like we have another question. Can you run through that list of social media platforms that PTA uses? There were a few icons I didn't recognize. Sure, I'll go back. Slides. Okay. Alrighty, so we have our Facebook, that's our Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, our Flickr page. We use that mainly for our event photos, our Storify. So if we do a Twitter chat or a social media campaign, we like to do a roundup of all the curated tweets using that hashtag on Storify. And then, of course, our blog. Okay to use the content from your social media channels and eBlast to create my own content? Yes. Thanks, Lawanda. So yes, we create our e-newsletters and social media content just for our PTA leaders. We also do a lot of social media toolkits that we do for a lot of our campaigns, like Family Reading Experience, Teacher Appreciation Week, even Take Your Family to School Week. So a lot of our content is for our PTA leaders. So you can use our pictures, use our sample social media messaging. All of our content in our e-newsletters are catered so they can be used and repurposed on all of your platforms as well. Thanks, Lawanda.
Don't reinvent the wheel. Use our photos and sample messaging.
So we're going to stick around for 2 more minutes, and then, like I said, this webinar will be recorded, so you can view it on our YouTube page in the next few days, and we'll send out a link. So Shane, are you still on the line? Would you like to add anything else? Or have any other questions?
I'm here. No, that's it, I think. I would just definitely encourage people to experiment, and that we'll see the success, like in engagement metrics. So retweets, Facebook likes, comments, all that stuff they'll start to see.
Thank you. So again, her information's on this slide right here. And thank you again for this webinar and joining us.
So a few key takeaways. The key takeaway is to plan things out. While in our personal lives we may like to use social media as kind of an off-the-cuff thing, a reactive thing, it's important for brands, especially PTAs, to plan things out ahead of time. So if you know you have an event, know to plan that you're going to need to tweet a few times after the event, to make a Facebook post about the event. So it's important to be thinking about these things as the event is happening, so you can take those pictures or get that great content as it's happening. So to do that consistently on a regular basis, so you can't just tweet sporadically. Think about, okay, I'm going to tweet at least once a week. I'm going to put one Facebook post up a week at minimum. And you can do more, and you can do it less, but like have a minimum and stick to it, because consistency is the best way to create your brand. And same thing goes with emails. Like, make sure you're thinking about how often you're sending them out. Like the frequency of your emails, like how many do you actually need to send to your members to keep them informed. And make sure on that note not to send too few. Like, you don't want them to be sort of scrounging to figure out when you're going to be sending them information. So like maybe a month before an event, send out an email, then 2 weeks, then a week, then the day before. Sort of plan that out to remind people their duties, what they need to do, what they need to bring, what time to arrive, things like that. So again, it's just important to plan things and to do them consistently, as with everything in a PTA.
Okay, so this concludes our webinar. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much and have a good evening.